Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Advice Stream. I'm your host, Jeremy International. If you're new, the Advice Stream is the stream where we play old video games and we dish advice. If you would like to seek advice from the crew on today's Advice Stream, head on over to JeremyInternational.com. There's a contact form at the bottom where you can submit a question if you want to do it anonymously. Otherwise, you could just put it in the chat if you want everybody to know your business. I respect that. I'm a kind of let everybody know your business kind of person myself. It has been a while because I haven't been feeling so good for a little bit, but I'm feeling a lot better today, and I am glad to be back. We will have our reoccurring, most important valued guest, oldmin, on shortly. The game we are playing, by the way, today is a game I just got in the mail today. In fact, it is called Dracula the Undead. I have heard tell that it is a point and click adventure based on Dracula, of course. It is for the Atari Lynx. I'm pretty confident that no one's ever streamed a game from the Atari Lynx on Twitch before, probably, but who knows? So we'll be playing that too. We have a few questions to get over. Oh yeah, and last month was my birthday, and I bought a lot of video games. So many, in fact. So we'll do like a little, how like video game collectors on the internet do like a pickups, where I show you not all of, because I got a lot, but I'll show you some of the cooler video games I got over the last month. If you're into that sort of thing. Why don't we go ahead and bring our special guest in for the day? Hey, Oldman, you might still be muted. Hold on. Now you are not. How's it going,
Hello,
Oldman?
hello, 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 hello. I'm just kidding. We got our sound issues fixed.
Yeah, we fixed the issues. Oh, and also, I am a mess today. Hold on, my glasses are filthy, so I'm gonna clean them up. When I take my
Same.
glasses off, I'm told that I look exactly like my brother. So we are not twins, but we're not twins. You know what I mean? You know how that works sometimes. Okay, am I back? Okay, I'm a mess. Almost forgot to say what our special unofficial sponsor for the episode is. The unofficial sponsor for this episode of the Advice Stream is empathy. Something
Oh,
you do. Empathy, is important to remember, everybody, that empathy is not just a feeling, it is also an action. If you're sitting on at home on the TV and you see something sad happening to people you don't know and you feel sad about it, that is sympathy. Very easy to get the two confused. Empathy is when you crawl down in the hole, as they say, and help the person struggle and get out together. It is an action. It is not just a feeling. I hear people all the time say, I'm super empathetic. Every time I see something sad on TV, I feel really sad. Yeah, that's being a human being, and that is sympathy. There is a difference.
as an empath myself, I'm detecting perhaps that you think empathy is important.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think empathy is super important, Oldman. It is vital that all of us do our best. We're not always successful at it, but to be empathetic for all of our fellow primates when we see them struggling. Everybody is everybody's responsibility with within reason to some extent. So, you're struggling, I'm struggling. I care about you, you care about me. Let's figure out how to move on together. That is empathy. I try my best. I wish I was more successful more frequently than I am about it, but I'm working on it, as I hope we all are. Jugsy's in the chat today. Hey, Jugsy, it's been a while. How you doing? It will take about 2 minutes for you to respond, so I'm going to have my sip of whiskey. How's it been, Oldman? What is new with you? I know you haven't been doing so great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we spoke about
Mir's
this
here.
yesterday during our little sound check, but I've also had some health problems over the past month, 2 months. So it was fine that we both needed to take a break. At least it coincided, I suppose.
That is good. Yeah, it is always important to take breaks. I think the last show we did, which was like more than a month ago now, our unofficial sponsor was being patient with yourself, and that is also a thing that I wish I was better at. I'm working on it, and maybe someday I'll get to be where I'd like to be. Jugsy's here. Amir is here. I think we got a few other folks creeping in. Um, yeah, so we're back. I'm really excited. Hopefully, this is something we can keep up on a regular basis for a little bit. You ever heard, Oldman, of an Atari Lynx? You know what an Atari Lynx is slash was?
I am aware only because I set up a RetroPie last year or the year before, and that was one of the catalogs of consoles that I wanted to be able to emulate. But I can't say that I've played a lot of it,
Atari
like
Lynx
more
had
than 5 minutes.
Atari Lynx had a bunch of good games for it. I desperately wanted one when I was a kid. Atari always struggled with the hardware after the late 70s, but continued to publish some really great games. And so when you get your hands on a piece of Atari hardware, you know that you'll have lots of good games to have. But I have no idea what to make of this Dracula the Undead game. I only vaguely know a little bit about it, but I saw it on a list of great Atari Lynx games, so it was cheap and I grabbed it. And we'll see how it goes. One other thing, hold on, let me show you this. I didn't tell you this before, Oldman. One thing I got for my birthday is a Sega Saturn.
I had one of those.
This is from Japan, and it was a really good deal. It's kind of yellowed. I'm assuming
Yeah,
it was once in the house of a smoker. Yeah, this is all the way from Japan. I don't know yet how I'm going to get this to plug into this. The Sega Saturn does not have a digital out for video.
Mm-hmm.
So the process, I'll have to get, I think I probably got one around here somewhere. I'll have to get some kind of converter and like a line doubler so it looks okay on my computer screen, and then we can play some games off of it. But I got a couple, when I got the Saturn, it came with a stack of of Japanese Saturn games. I don't know what any of them are. I know this one. This is Virtual Fighter 2. This was like the must-have for the Saturn. But then there's this one. I don't know what that is. Can you see that okay? The light's not great.
Not familiar with that one.
Yeah,
no.
Me neither. It's all in Japanese. This looks like it's some kind of soccer game. So I won't play that because I don't play sports games very often. And then this game, if you look closely, it's got characters from Neon Genesis on it, and it's got characters from Gundam on it. I have no idea what that is. It's all in Japanese.
I've got two major Saturn recommendations from my own childhood.
Oh, please, let me have them.
One would be Nights into Dreams, which is also, it's a very famous game. And then Clockwork Knight also is a good game.
Okay, I know Nights into Dreams. That's a little pricey. The thing with old vintage collecting old video games is sometimes people put that stuff on eBay, or you find an old video game store, and the price people want for it is ridiculous and nonsensical and not connected to anything anyone would ever pay for it. And then other times,
sounds like the stock market.
Yeah, it is. It's all made up of dreams and wishes, just like the stock market does. Man, I could talk about that forever. So if you're patient, you can find something that actually is being sold by someone that wants to sell it, and they have it for a reasonable price. And you can and then you can buy it. One of the games that I've been wanting to get for a while, I'm sure I had when I was a kid that I have lost, was Castlevania 4, which was the main Castlevania game for the Super Nintendo. It wasn't the only one, but it was the main one. And the American version of that is always priced outside of my reach, so I was able to get the Japanese version of that also.
Nice.
So I'm excited. I'm a big Castlevania fan, as I'm sure you all know. And then the most valuable game, I got a good deal on this too, is Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, which is for the Game Boy Advance. I'm excited to play that. I might stream that for a little bit too, because this is a classic that I've never owned, but I always wanted to. I got so many random things. I got Berserker for the Atari 2600. I got Alien Crush for the TurboGrafx 16. There were a lot of really great pinball games for the Atari, for the TurboGrafx 16. So I got, this is one of those pinball games. I got Bravely Default 2 on the Switch. This is more for my partner than me because she just played the first one on the DS and liked it okay. So this is the second one for her. And then what else did I get? All kinds of cool stuff. So I got lots to do to keep me busy.
Speaking of your partner, this thought just occurs to me. She's a JRPG expert, basically. Maybe we should have her on
she really
sometime.
is. I would love to have her on the show sometimes. You should tell her that because I certainly have. I think that we'd have a lot of fun. We've talked about her being on the show before. It's a little tricky because we have a kid and the show starts right around the time she's gone to sleep.
Sense.
So one of us kind of needs to be on standby. But
Yeah,
she'll be on one of these days. I'm sure. And because there's always a lot to learn. One of the games on my list that I've wanted to play for a long time, and maybe we should just stream this too, is what was Final Fantasy IV was out for other systems, but was made for the Game Boy Advance, and I have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never played a Final Fantasy game before. This one looks really good. I've heard really good things about it.
They made a Final Fantasy IV for the Game Boy Advance. Oh, the Game Boy Advance. So it's like a port. It's like a port of the Super.
Yeah,
Nintendo
the Game Boy Advance was more or less a Super Nintendo. So anything that ran on the Super Nintendo could hypothetically run on a Game Boy Advance. Mm-hmm. I've been stuck on the last level for like 6 months, but the original Castlevania for the NES is great to play on the Game Boy Advance. If you're looking for a way to play the original Castlevania, you can't beat playing it on a handheld. Although I'm sure there's a collection or something where you could play it on a Switch if you wanted to. That is highly challenging and lots of fun games. Amir says, get Daytona. I'm also not much into sports games, but man, that was peak of racing games. I like a good racing game from time to time. Thanks for letting me know that, Amir. I will look around and see if I can find it. Saturn games are a little American Saturn games are a little pricey just because the Saturn never did very well here. But if you hunt around and it's a game that doesn't require you to read, I don't read or speak any Japanese, then you can usually find a good deal on it as long as you don't have to know any Japanese. Should we do a question, Oldman? You want to do a question?
Yeah, let's start off with a question. That's our strength.
Let's start off with a question.
Let's do it.
I only have 3 tonight. I usually like to have 4. We haven't done the show in a while, so not a lot of questions have come through the website in a little bit. But if you're out there and you have a question, you can head on over, of course, to JeremyInternational.com. There's a contact form at the bottom, and we will read your question out anonymously. But if you
you can also always put it into the chat, as Jeremy was about to say.
Yeah, thank you. If you don't want to be anonymous and you want everybody to know your business, you can put it in the chat. Well, I guess if you're using a screen name, if you're like on Twitch or YouTube, then no one's going to really know who you are. But if you're on Facebook, then we will see your name. So keep all of that in mind. If I haven't said already, we are currently live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and JeremyInternational.com. You can watch it any of those places, but there's no chat at JeremyInternational.com. So if you want to participate in the chat, you're going to have to head on over to Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. But I get the chats in live from either of those sources, from any of those sources, all the time. Okay. Here is our first question. The questions that I have, I'm just going to warn everybody right now, are all a little bit of a bummer. All of the questions we always get are usually a bit of a bummer, but for whatever reason, that's just the kind of place that I've been in. So I just want to warn everybody of that. And then I don't remember if it's this first question or not, but always we give a content warning. Jeremy and the advice stream, as well as Jeremy International, acknowledges the existence of sex. If you are uncomfortable with the acknowledgement of the existence of sex, this might not be the stream for you. Boy, that is good whiskey. Okay, here we go. I've been married for 1.5 years and need help determining if it's time to cut my losses and divorce. My marriage has not been what I thought it would be by any stretch. My husband and I fought all the time in the lead up to our wedding, grappling with insomnia, a family estrangement, financial challenges, etc. I'd hope things would get better after the wedding. Why would you hope that? And enjoyed periods of consistent joy earlier in our relationship. And I was excited to get back to that. Only that consistency has never returned. We've had some good days and what feels like far more bad days. We still fight all the time. He's been laid off twice since our wedding, unemployed for more than half of the time we've been married. His resulting self esteem crisis has left me in a marriage that feels like it's hanging on by a thread. I just want to consistently feel loved and supported. And while I know my husband does love and care for me, his inability to bring his best self to our marriage with any degree of consistency has been devastating. I feel alone. I know he's trying to do better. He's in therapy, has expressed how much he wants to show up for me, etc., but I'm tired of being unhappy. I can't stand the thought of waking up to another day of unhappiness. To add complexity, I'm nearing the age where I need, that's their word, to have children if I ever want to have them. I still love my husband and ideally want to have children with him, but I can't imagine taking that next step with him when we haven't even had the chance to enjoy our marriage, just the two of us. What should I do? So to paraphrase, they've been married for a year and a half. Throughout that time, they've gone through a number of crises, particularly the husband's been laid off twice, and it's taken a big hit to his self-esteem. But it also talks about insomnia and family estrangement, as well as vague financial challenges. She doesn't know what to do. She's unhappy, and they fight all the time, and she wants to have children. You got a take on that, Oldman?
Uh, just as a prefatory remark, I do not get to hear or know what the questions that Jeremy is going to ask on this show is before I come on, so it's always a surprise.
Maybe I should share them with you in advance so you have some time to ruminate.
No, I like it better like this. My like seat of the pants feelings about things. But on this particular question, I had read the place where you got it from already. And I had a lot of thoughts and feelings about this particular article because I was married for 2 years and then we broke up. And I was a bad husband during that time. I was an alcoholic, and there's a lot of things that led up to that. And, you know, in general, we were not very compatible, putting aside my bad behavior. And I did get better. You know, I was sober for a year and a half during that marriage too. But what I'll say is that my initial reaction when I read this article was that it was validating for my own choice to end things, and that I think it's too common for people to say, "Oh, well, you've only been married for X amount of time, a short amount of time. Therefore, you need to stick it out." And you need to make a better effort because you made that oath. And that has a lot of validity to it in a lot of situations. But at the same time, there are situations where you can really tell after not that long that it's not what you want for the rest of your life. And the other thought that I had when I read this, and this is not to say that she shouldn't follow through with ending it. But if it's a need for her to want to have kids, the likelihood that she's not going to be able to if she ends it goes way up. Yeah. That said, if you're not happy in the marriage and you can't see it getting better, then you shouldn't have kids in the first place.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts.
First off, I appreciate your openness and honesty. Your insight on these types of questions is always interesting to me. I agree with you in every step of that process. I feel like there are things they haven't done yet that they could try if she really wants to. My take on this is when you go through these types of personal struggles like the unemployment and insomnia and family estrangement, the reason people invented marriage or relationships in general, serious relationships, is because those things are supposed to bring you closer together. That's when you're supposed to show up for people, not when you're supposed to take a step back. And if you're not doing that, if he's not doing that for you and the letter writer isn't doing that for him, then that's the biggest sign that their marriage isn't working. I get that she wants to try to make it work, especially because she wants to have a baby, and getting divorced and then trying to find someone else to partner up with to have a baby with is all complicated and risky things to do. She talks about how he's in therapy. And I know this is one of the things you and I, Oldman, oftentimes disagree with. I don't think therapy is a fix-all for everything, but it oftentimes can be a good way to build a structure for fixing. It doesn't seem like they've been in therapy together. That would be a thing. If she wants to try to make this work, that'd be a thing that I think that they need to do. If the marriage isn't working, it takes two not to tango, and they need to be working on this together. He doesn't need to be sitting in a therapist by himself, because it's not his marriage, it's both of their marriage.
There's not that much daylight between us on therapy, Jeremy. It's more my objection is when people treat it as a cure-all, and you just said you don't, and I know you don't. So
yeah, it's a good way to figure out what work you need to do and then hold each other accountable for the work. Going to therapy doesn't fix any problems. Going to therapy is a good way to discover what type of work you need to do. Even like fixing like the word fixing isn't the right thing to do either, because nobody gets fixed. Everybody's broken, everybody's damaged, and the way that you're broken and the way that you're damaged, you are in some way or another forever. We're all traumatized. We all go through struggles that permanently change us, not always for the better, although sometimes for the better. It's not about fixing things. It's about learning how to process and deal with what you got. And it's difficult to do that by yourself. That's why people are therapists, is they've gone to school and they've read books, and they can help you figure out how to develop the tools you need to deal with your particular shit, because there's no one that doesn't have it. There's no one that isn't struggling. They should be in therapy together. They need to figure out tools to work together for. People get laid off from jobs, and it sometimes takes. I was unemployed for 9 months. Was it 9 months or 7 months? I was unemployed for a long time, and it sucked. Not because I wanted to work, but because I wasn't contributing to the team that I am part of in this house, and feeling like you're not contributing isn't a good feeling. So I get how he's feeling. He has a right to those feelings, but he needs to be able to manage them in a way that doesn't have too much of a negative impact on the letter writer. That's what you need to work on. That's the work. There's no other reason anyone ever needs to get divorced than they want to get divorced because they're not happy. That's the only reason anyone needs. And if she wants to get a divorce, she can get a divorce. But from the letter, it seems like there's some things they could try to do to make this, to have a serious swing at making this work that they haven't done yet.
I agree. Yeah, there are steps that they could take together. But if she is, if take again, as we always do, we take the letter at its word. Sometimes we do a little speculation, but that's just for fun. Right. If she's so convinced that it's not going to work at this point, and you're taking her at that word, then divorce is not something to feel bad about or embarrassed. It's going to hurt a lot. It's going to hurt a lot for a long time. And there are, as I said before, her consideration about kids. If that is so major for her, she needs to really take that seriously, because who knows how long it's going to be before she finds somebody else.
No.
Or if she will at all.
If she wants to have a kid by herself, then she can do that too. That's real hard to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
People do it all the time. And
and the other thing I wanted to say is, if you want to get fixed, go to a veterinarian. Don't go to a therapist.
Right. Or, you can go, if you're a male style person, you can go to a urologist to get fixed. If you're a female style person, you can go to a gynecologist and they'll fix it real good.
True.
Okay, you want to try out Dracula?
Yeah, I'm like really excited, because you didn't even boot this up before the show, did you?
I did, just to make sure that it worked. I got to the menu screen. Yeah. I don't know. Right,
so it's going to be a surprise for everybody.
Yeah, and everyone should keep in mind that this was designed for what year did this come out? I have the manual here. This is 1992 copyright. It is so old that it has a manual because they don't do that anymore. And
Love
so the
those
graphics are
manuals.
going to be a little basic because this was made for a handheld in 1992. Interestingly, the manual is in French.
Hmm. I wonder if the game's going to be in French.
I hope not. The title, let's bring it up. The title is in English. If it's in French, I can get by on French a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
My French is way better than my Japanese, but not enough to probably uh, stop Dracula from whatever it is he's trying to do. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm going to bring up the volume.
Crisp sound, no echoes, perfect
Good.
show.
Yeah, I'm so glad we fixed that, Oldman. Thanks for
Me
giving me
too.
some time to figure it out the other day.
No problem.
This music's a little spooky, right? Are you spooked out? Are you a little creeped out? Okay. Nope. What button does the game gets us the game? Ooh. A move to next line. Oh, A, move to next line. B, back to start. Got it. Thank you. In case anyone is wondering, because I'm using my analog pocket and it is a little tricky with wireless controls, because if you let it sit for too long, it goes to sleep, because this is also a portable device that I have running through a converter. So I'm using a wired SN30 Pro from 8BitDo. This is a great wired.
Oh, I had one of those. Yeah.
USB.
This is my
controller.
8BitDo that I've been using recently.
You're gonna have a hard time finding a better USB wire. Just simple. It's got 4 shoulder buttons, in fact. 4, Super Nintendo era face buttons. It's got 2 analog sticks. So this is a great USB. Oh, can I just say one other thing about the Sega Genesis? So, I think I showed you this before. 8BitDo makes wireless conversion kits. This is an original Dogbone NES controller. It's like the second gen of NES controllers from Nintendo first party. And 8BitDo makes a wireless conversion kit. So you unscrew this, you take out all the guts, you slap in all new guts that has a battery and a little Bluetooth receiver. It's so cool. They make one of these for the Sega Saturn controller. And I have a beautiful, crispy Japanese Sega Saturn controller that came with that Japanese Sega Saturn. So I'm going to do one of those conversions on that. I'm very excited. Yeah. It's going to be super cool. Amir says, "Oh, it's Bela Lugosi's Dracula." Is it? Maybe. That's a good question for those Dracula fans out there. Is who's your favorite Dracula? Everybody, I want to hear everyone's fave. Have we talked about this already on the show? Maybe we have. I don't know.
We were talking a little bit about Dracula versus Frankenstein last night when we were doing the sound check, but I'm not sure if we have.
Because we did we did a takedown of Nosferatu, not a takedown, but an overview of Nosferatu for Halloween with our friend Ease. And
yes, we did.
Talked more about, but I still want to. I don't know if everybody in the chat was there then. Still love to hear everyone's favorite Dracula. I'm kind of torn. I love Bela Lugosi, obviously, as Dracula. He's the OG. But Christopher Lee, if you ever seen the Hammer Dracula movies, Christopher Lee's really good. And of course, Gary Oldman from Bram Stoker's Dracula is amazing too. Okay, so A moves to the next line and B goes back to start, whatever that means. Opt 1, exit intro. What is Opt 1? Oh, here we go. There's
Bram Stoker. There we go.
I am Bram Stoker, and by the magic of technology, I am able to narrate this story of Dracula to you. Thanks, Bram. That's so nice. Your adventure will closely follow my original book, but in this version, you will be able to interact in a way never thought to be possible. When I published Dracula in 1897. I love this so much already. Why is it necessary to bring Bram Stoker back from the dead on a Atari Lynx in almost 16 bits, maybe on a good day? First, you will guide Jonathan Harker, we all know who that is, a young solicitor. He has traveled to Transylvania from London. Yesterday, as he left the inn, the landlord's wife insisted that he accept and wear a crucifix. She had become concerned when she had learned he was to visit Dracula. Last night was.
Walpurgisnacht.
Is that what that says? Walpurgisnacht. Nacht. When the locals believed the dead rise and stalk the night. Jonathan was taken to Castle Dracula he's putting a lot of exposition in here. Castle Dracula in a coach driven by a strange cloaked man. Arriving in the early hours of the morning, he had been shown to his room by the Count himself. Dracula had told him to get plenty of rest and to rise late the next day. Food would be ready in the dining. It's hard to read this text room. Dracula would be away during the day, of course, lol. Dracula also said that Jonathan was free to explore where he wished, but that he should never try to enter any locked rooms. This was for Jonathan's own safety, since most of the castle is in ruins and is dangerous. It is late morning. Jonathan has awakened and dressed in his antechamber to his bedroom. After failing to find a mirror anywhere, he had used the small shaving mirror which he had brought with him. While shaving, Jonathan has cut his chin. It looks like it says thin, doesn't it? And the wound is now marked by congealed blood. Oh, Jonathan, what are you doing? Jonathan seems to recall that there was something he must do before going down to the dining room, but cannot quite remember what. Jonathan reminds himself that in the future he should make a note of anything interesting or important. Jonathan feels strange. It is as though he is not in complete control of his own actions.
I like that. That's very meta because you're playing a game,
Yeah,
and it
I
was
know, I
like
know.
you are playing a game to start out with.
All right, I'm really excited about this now. So we can control Jonathan like this.
Mm-hmm.
Can we? The B button moves this arrow to the left. Oh, and then we can turn. So these are all of our actions. This is a classic Scum style point and click adventure game. Close, open, use, etc. Not all that different from Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, which I never finished and I really want to. And then if I move it up, then I can move around. So the question mark on the right side, I'm assuming, will adapt as we like open window, for example. Can we open the window?
Mm-hmm.
It
I'm sorry,
open.
Jeremy. I'll be right back in 1 minute myself.
Yeah, of course. Take your time. I'm going to keep going if you don't mind. Can we open? Is this a dresser? Open cupboard. Okay, it's open. Can I examine cupboard? It's an old cupboard. Thank you, Jonathan. You're wonderful. Look. The antechamber is okay. Well, let's close it. And then we can go back into walking around mode. Can I close this side too? Just curious. It's already closed. Okay. Is there a door? I can already sense that this music is going to get annoying. Open? Open window. Okay,
Another
it's
window.
open. Can I...
Examine window.
Okay, let's examine. It's a fine window. Climb window? Jonathan does not believe... wow, that text does not stay up for very long. Use window. Nope.
All right.
This is the downside of these games, is there's so much like, does this work? Can I try this? Can I go over here? That, drawers. Let's open the drawers.
Mm-hmm.
My notebooks. Boy, that text. It's already open. Examine. Just a chest of drawers. Look. Nope.
It doesn't.
So
Oh, here we go. Get notebook.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I got it. So when you get the right thing, that's when it pops up on the right side. If you can't do anything, it stays blank.
That's kind of useful, though, in this kind of game.
Except that it says turn notebook, and it just said it doesn't work. Can we examine?
There's got to be a way of, like scrolling on the right scrolly thing between the things you can use, maybe?
I can't scroll.
Oh, there you go. Yo, you just did it. You're doing it.
Yeah, I think it's because that I'm in walking around mode now. When the arrow points up, I'm walking around. So there's nothing I can do. And then when I hit the B button, it flips over to the left. I can't, the arrow doesn't go to the right.
I wish it were more clear where your door was.
It does.
There we go.
I only have a notebook. So can we use the notebook? Jonathan makes a note in shorthand.
All right. Of.
How did I move the arrow? There we go. Open.
Maybe that dark thing back there with the tiny little thing that looks like a knob. Yeah, it looks a little bit like a door. I don't know. It's worth a shot. No? All right.
I'm going to leave it at open. And then let's see if maybe something triggers as I walk around.
In the meantime, oh, there we go. Yeah. I was going to start to look up the game FAQs. All right. Making progress.
Yeah. So can I walk out? There we go. It's the bedroom. Open table? There's a tinderbox on the table. In case I need to burn this shit down. Just a second. I'm checking to see what is going on. Okay. Nothing's going on. Let's walk around some more. Can we examine the bed? This is where the magic happens. There's a crucifix on the bed. That's probably a good idea, Jonathan. I'm not a religious person myself. I was hoping that opening that door would bring us into like a hallway or something.
Yeah, explore the four corners of the room. See if there's anything else.
Examine window. It leads to the south wall and it's closed. Well, let's open it.
The plot is coming back to me a little bit here because I read this book a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's strange. It's locked. From the outside. So we can't get out through. We were able to open a window in the other room. And when we examined it, it said that it was a fine window.
I would go pick up that crucifix and the box of tinder.
Oh, I didn't even think that I could pick that up, Doi. These controls are going to take me a little bit of time to get used to. Okay, I got the tinder box, and then I need to get the crucifix. I forgot that I was playing this kind of game where everything you see you need to pick up. While we're here, everyone, just as a reminder, if you're coming in late, this is the Advice Stream. I'm your host, JeremyInternational. We are joined today by oldmin while we play Dracula the Undead for the Atari Lynx 1992. We are live on Facebook, we are live on Twitch, we are live on YouTube. If you would like to seek advice during the stream today, you can head on over to JeremyInternational.com. And there is a contact form there you can use. You can also leave a tip if you want to, although don't feel under pressure to do so because no one ever has. Let's get back to the game. Okay, so I picked up the tinderbox and the crucifix. And then I'm gonna go back over to the door. Let's check out this window again. Here. And examine, and he just says it's a fine window. Can we climb? How did I get that text to stay up longer? I can barely read it. Could climb out onto the castle wall without falling. Okay, so I can't climb out to the castle wall without falling. Is there like a...
I'm going to be giving you hints.
Yeah, please, because I'm bored already.
You might want to use the crucifix.
Okay. Okay, I feel safe now.
He's wearing it.
Yeah, so does that mean he's going to climb out the window because he's wearing a crucifix? Because I hate to tell you this, buddy, that doesn't help anybody do anything. No.
All right, that door, the thing that I said looked like a door, is a door.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It does look like a door. There we go. You had to be standing right in front of it. It's real fidgety.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Forced perspective. Is this a door? It's jammed shut. Okay. But I might be able to pry it open. If we can find something to pry. Oh, this is tricky. I guess that's as far back as I can go. It looks like there's a door all the way at the end of the hallway, but I can't walk down that far. This would be a lot easier to manage if there were more colors. Because it kind of gets hard to make out what's what.
This is like modern first-person shooter games or first-person shooter games from 5 years ago that had no colors.
Yeah.
That's a staircase on your left, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering am I doing something wrong? Can I not walk all the way to the back? No, I can't. Okay. Mando, could you imagine being like 11 and playing this on a handheld? Man, I'd be so creeped out.
And like, I'd probably just get really frustrated, honestly, if I was 11.
Yeah. Examine the clock. It's an old grandfather clock. This car has a dent in it. Examine door. Nothing interesting about it. Well, can we open the door? It's open. So if we find something that we think can pry open a door, Yeah, Amir says this is very Lucas artsy. It is,
Hmm.
but it somehow feels more menacing. I don't know why. It's too dark to see anything clearly. Well, can I use the tinderbox to light a
Just light the
match?
books on fire.
Just to burn it down. Use the tinderbox with tinderbox. What?
Try swiping right. It's a Tinder joke.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh my God. Oh boy. Um. Okay. So maybe there's something. No. We'll come back in here.
Sometimes when you're moving, the music kind of cuts out a little bit, and I don't think that's a sound issue. I think that's the hardware, or maybe the way the game was programmed.
Yeah, you're probably right. It won't open. Okay, well that door's locked.
Try walking towards the camera
Yeah.
as much as you can. There you go.
Oh, who's that?
I don't know.
Is that a person? It's hard to tell.
Oh,
Open
that's Dracula.
Good morning. Oh wait, no, I'm saying that. Good morning, Count. How's it going? How's it hanging, Drax? Good morning, Count. Good morning, Jonathan, says Dracula. Yes, thank you. No, there were wolves howling all night. You do not enjoy the sound of the night? The sounds of the night? You from the city do not understand. Yeah, that's what it is. It's because I'm from
City
the city.
slickers.
The choice of my friends calling. You have very impressive home count. Wait, do I have other options? When shall we get down to our business? Yeah, let's do that one. I will be away today on business. I will return tonight. You have a very... oh, I said that already. Okay, well, I guess I need to say all of the things. Thank you. I'm Dracula. Please explore the castle. I've been trying to, dude. You have something I can pry that door open with? But do not try to enter any locked rooms. And the castle is run down and can be very dangerous. But first, please enjoy your meal. Okay, thank you. I will not be joining you as I ate earlier. I'm sure you did. I'll eat my meal now is the only other option we have.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's Bram back. Is he sick? He looks like he's sick. Dracula then left the room and Jonathan was left wondering what might be his fate. Super helpful. I guess this is my meal. There's no chair. There's some oil here. What? Can we get the oil? I've got
There
it.
we go.
So we can help the Tin Woodsman if we find him. That's good to know. Wait, that's a different book. Is that all that's there? It's the main dining table. Well, I mean, I hate to be picky, but aren't we supposed to eat? Where's our food? Also, does that portrait on the wall on the right side kind of look like maybe it's Joseph Stalin? It's
A
the
little too
mean
early
date.
for that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I would say use your notebook.
Oh.
Make a note that you ate your dinner.
Jonathan makes a note in shorthand.
That really just does not tell you that you've done something important.
No,
It,
he
it's the
always says
same
the same
message
thing.
every time. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's pause and let's do another question. It's almost 10 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay, this one is one of the ones I was saying is a little bit of a bummer, but that's okay because you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have. Okay, I lost the love of my life to homicide when I was 20. We've been together since childhood. I've dated occasionally after a lot of goading and years of counseling to try to get my life back together, but I just don't feel that connection with anyone else. I'm in my late 30s and happy in a successful career. I left the area where we grew up shortly after it happened, and recently I've started coming back for business. Every time I run into someone I knew or my parents knew, I'm asked why I'm not married with kids yet. I've tried to be polite with my response, but the questions and badgering don't stop. I even wear my ring. Um, how do I get people to leave me alone about not having a corporeal husband? That's an interesting phrase. And stop trying to pawn me off on someone's never married nephew. So it's been almost 20 years. Going back to what we were saying before, no one ever really gets over anything, at least not any of the big things. And so the expectation that she like you don't move on from that, you just learn how to deal. And it doesn't seem like she really is still, is my take.
Yeah, it's a very traumatic event, and to say the least. But I also want to say, like, there's a lot of people out there who never get over their first love at all,
Yeah.
and were not involved in such a traumatic event.
Yeah, even when
So that's not exactly like an uncommon thing in general.
Yeah. I agree with all of that, but the real question here, it seems to me that the letter writer still has some work to do in learning how to cope. But that's not her question. Her question is, how does she get people to stop badgering her? And I always think this is interesting when people say, how am I supposed to be polite? That these people aren't being polite. They're being nosy, they're being rude, they're being condescending. And so why do you need to be polite to someone that's being so deliberately impolite to you? If someone's badgering you about why you're not married and had kids yet, and you've asked them nicely to stop and they keep doing it, then either don't be around them anymore. If you see them, go the other direction, or tell them to go fuck off because they don't care about your feelings and they've made it clear that. So why be so particular about protecting theirs is my take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, why aren't you married yet? Well, why haven't you learned not to be so rude yet?
Yeah. How did you get married to begin with? You rude so and so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't owe people kindness that aren't well, that's not true. You're not obligated to give people a kindness when they're so unwilling to give you one. We should all try to do that for sure. And that's the thing that all of us should aspire to do, I think. But sometimes you don't have the bandwidth to give somebody something that they don't really deserve. So you don't need to stress out about being polite. Just don't talk to them, go the other way, or tell them to leave you alone in a way that they understand because they haven't understood yet.
I think some people, when they ask, why aren't you married yet, they think that they're giving you some kind of compliment. And that's just not how it comes off ever.
Yeah. And that's one of those things. Why aren't you married yet? Is like one of those things like, oh, are you pregnant? Is like that. There's no situation where that's an acceptable thing to ask somebody.
Mm-hmm. They could just say, you're so wonderful. You
Yeah.
deserve somebody great.
Yeah.
That's a
Or
much better way of putting it.
that's up there with like, what's your ethnicity? Like, don't we all wonder what's your gender? Are you trans? Like, those aren't acceptable questions to ever ask anybody. Maybe we wonder, maybe we think, why isn't that person married? They seem really cool. Or I can't believe she hasn't gotten over this dude that died 20 years ago. Those are things you can think. It's not nice to think them, but at the same time, thoughts can't be really nice or mean or good or bad. They're just thoughts. But you can wonder, you can be curious, but don't ask. It's rude. There's no way that asking those questions is ever gonna not.
Or think of a kind way to translate that first initial, thought that you have into something that is more sensitive.
Yeah, yeah. But we're not giving advice to these bojos that keep bugging her.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you. Like, if somebody is that unaware that they don't realize that asking that question is not a compliment and it's very rude, then she has the absolute right to just like turn her head and walk away or say something rude herself.
Yeah.
And probably if she really wants people to stop asking this, she should come up with a stock response. That would be my advice.
Yeah. It's because I'm a robot and I'm incapable of feeling love. Yeah, like I've had people ask me, like, it used to be, not so much anymore because I've finally started to gain a little bit of weight. But I've always been pretty thin, and I've had people come up to me before and ask me how I stay so thin without understanding that I've had really serious chronic issues with my digestive system, and I'm missing an awful lot of it since I was a teenager. And so when people would ask me that, for a while, I told them it's because my digestive system is made out of recycled bicycle inner tubes and carpet remnants. And then they leave me alone. They never brought it up again.
I feel like I've heard you say that.
Yeah. One time early in the pandemic, and I was taking a lift home from work early because I was scared about getting COVID and dying, like lots of people were. And I was sitting in the back with the driver, and he was driving me, and I was like, I'm sorry to ask, but like, have you had any symptoms or anything? I need to know because I don't have a lot. I take medication that lowers my immune system so that I don't get sicker. And so I was telling him, I didn't tell him that much. I just said, I don't have a lot of an immune system, so I'm a little cautious right now. And he's like, oh no, I'm fine. And you should drink some orange juice. That'll help with your immune system. And I'm like,
sure.
I'm doing that on purpose. So my immune system doesn't kill what's left of my digestive system. Thank you. And then that shut him up. Like, being really straightforward and honest with people in a way that they're not expecting usually gets them to mind their own business. When my partner was pregnant and people would come up and ask us what the sex of our baby was, at least one time I answered, well, you're asking me a question about what type of genitals my unborn baby has, and that's a really weird question to ask somebody. And then they never.
That's a good response. Yeah, that's a very good.
Like,
response.
why is it your business what configuration of genitalia my unborn fetus is going to have? Talking in really, people aren't used to people communicating with them in a direct way. That's why they get away with asking rude questions. So if you're really direct with them, then they'll leave you alone.
And they might remember it.
And hopefully. They'll remember for sure. They won't forget. Yeah. So I think that we'd all benefit from being a little bit more direct at times, and I think you could even be direct in this case with being like putting kindness and empathy first, and not necessarily being rude to these people that are being so rude to you. But being direct would be a way that would maybe get them to leave you alone, and then maybe they tell their friends how direct and weird you were, and then their friends leave you alone too, and then it's a win-win really at that point.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, with the person asking the question, that person needs to think about their knee-jerk reaction in their minds, and if they still want to ask the question, they need to say it in a sensitive way. And the same is true for her, but she's not under that kind of obligation because she's the one that's being interrogated. She could be rude if she wanted to be, and there would be nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there wouldn't be. I hope that all of us can try to meet people with kindness that aren't necessarily up for meeting us with kindness. I know that's
Sure.
not always possible. I certainly don't do that as often as I like to, if ever, I guess. But it would be really nice thing to aspire to is to give people kindness that they don't deserve. That's really the only way the world can heal and grow and become a better place is if we give people the patience and kindness that they aren't able to give to other people. That's a lot to ask anyone to do. I certainly, like I'm saying, I'm rarely successful at it, but it's something to aspire to, I think.
Yeah, well, and not even talking on a moral level, but just like on a practical level, not, going in super aggro at every opportunity will make your own life easier.
Yeah. I um I agree with that. One of the things I still have a hard time with is just like letting people be wrong in my presence when I know the right answer and I just not saying anything, just letting them.
Yeah, well,
Why is it my job to tell someone that that's not an alligator, it's a crocodile or whatever? Like that's not my responsibility to do that. It doesn't matter when someone calls a crocodile an alligator, but there is a difference, and it bothers me when I hear someone be wrong. And I end up sounding like a smarty pants asshole, and I hate it. That happened the other day with Freddie, with my partner, is that she called a crocodile an alligator or vice versa. I can't remember, and I corrected her, and she's like, "Does that really matter?" And I'm like, "No, it doesn't."
well, you were both wrong. It was a caiman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, it's hard for me to do that, but I'm working on it because it doesn't like there are certainly situations where it matters that an alligator is an alligator and a crocodile is a crocodile, but it was not.
Not very niche, though.
Yeah,
Very niche. Are you a biologist?
it was not that. It was not a situation where it mattered at all. So that's we all have a lot of things to aspire to be, and me being chill when someone says something totally trivial. That's if someone says something that's actually harmful, then I'm gonna say something. But when someone says something that doesn't matter, although if you were a crocodile and someone called you an alligator, I bet you'd be pretty pissed off about it.
I think if I was a crocodile or an alligator, I would probably just be pissed off all the time.
Or maybe not. Maybe you'd be pretty chill. I mean, you're from Florida. That's where they live.
Strangely enough, there's actually both crocodiles and alligators in Florida,
I know it's the only
and
place in the
one
world
is
where they live
very
side
very
by side.
rare. Yeah, I have a story about an alligator. Alligator? It must have been an alligator, right?
I'm
I don't
up for
even
it
know.
if you want to tell it.
I was just chilling by this like retention pond, and the sun was going down. I was just laying there with my eyes closed. It got dark enough that it was time for me to go, and I got up and I heard this rustling behind my head, like a foot or 2 feet away from my head. And I got up, quick enough to see this reptile, whatever it was, slink into the water. And that's my like Florida story about an encounter with a large
Why
reptile.
were you
Is
just taking a nap on the ground by a retention pond?
because well, this it was like a retention pond thing that had been turned into a park, and I was enjoying nature. That's what it
Okay.
was. Yeah, but still,
See,
yeah, that's my closest encounter.
I enjoy nature the way that most people enjoy football, is I watch it on TV. I enjoy it on
It's a good option
television.
too.
Oh,
It's a good option.
no one ever got hurt watching football on TV. I never got attacked by an alligator watching alligators on TV. Okay, should we play this game some more, or should we do another game?
I think that's up to you. I
Let's
got
play it a
the
little bit longer. I am getting kind
yeah,
of bored.
I got the guide up here, so I can keep giving you little hints.
Okay, thank you. By the way, Amir in the chat talking about Dracula says, "What a chill dude. He's letting you crash, and he makes you feel at home. He even lends you his PJs. Yeah, I mean, he made a meal for me. Dracula's a pretty rad dude.
He didn't even say anything about your shaving incident.
He didn't, and he's let me hang out like by myself. Like he's leaving. He's going on business, whatever. It's a little troubling that he's got a picture of Joseph Stalin on the wall. That's weird.
Especially like 40 years, 30 years, 20 years before that was even a thing.
This is
1897.
1897.
Mm-hmm. Another like 20 years before.
Yeah, I guess Joseph Stalin would have been like a kid.
Thing.
He was around in 1897. Okay, here we go. So, looking at the guide, so I just want to go on the record to say I wouldn't normally play a game like this. This is the type of game where you really need to take your time and pick through everything. But we are a primarily entertainment / self-help program. So maybe let's examine the picture. Maybe I can ask Oldman here if there's something else I should be doing in this room or if I should leave.
Maybe check out the antechamber again. Whichever room is the antechamber.
That was back upstairs. Okay, thank you. That's where we started, I think. Oh boy. The other thing that's awkward is for some reason I need to figure out why, but the analog sticks aren't responsive. I gotta use the D-pad, and it's a little tricky to use a D-pad in a game like this. Of course, that's what the Lynx had, and that's what anybody playing this game on the original hardware would be experiencing. Can I look at this picture? No.
It says there's an unseen window, and I'm just going to tell you that because if it's unseen, you're not going to find it. Well, this is your room.
Oh.
Oh, there we go.
I never did this before. Is he going to see Dracula climb down the outside of the castle? Yep. Totally normal. Jonathan sees Dracula standing on a ledge across the wall. Doing totally normal count things. Oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Wee woo, wee woo.
I know. Whoa. Oh, pushing the Y button mutes it for some weird reason. That's strange.
Interesting.
Well, what do I do with this information? That happened.
Use your notebook again. That's what it says.
Yeah,
I'm not just going to like narrate this to you,
No,
but there's a lot of stuff that's not
I'm
obvious.
getting the hang of it, though. You use the notebook a lot. I get it.
Yeah. Whenever something
Jonathan
happens.
makes detailed notes.
Okay, that's a little different.
After seeing Dracula climb... Oh, I don't know what that said.
Climb down the wall like a bat.
Do bats do that? Okay.
And then you want to do the same.
Do the what?
Do the same as you just saw.
Oh, climb down the wall. Really? Well, if Dracula can do it, then anybody can do it. I've seen Dracula out there. It must be possible.
Yeah, this is totally rational and the thing you can do instead of just walking out the front door. Oh, it has a little climbing thing. Interesting.
I know, I'm controlling this. No.
Yeah, you got to do it by trial and error.
Go. Down. Up. Oh my god. Over. Nope. Up. This seems like the opposite direction of where I should be
right? Didn't it say climb down?
I'm back into this game now. Now I'm having fun again. Nope. Up. Nope. Left. Down. Up. Left. So no left, no down, no up, so then right. Is there some kind of like hidden pattern I'm not seeing?
Yeah, it's an invisible maze.
Well, okay, this is working. Now I'm going in the right direction. Nope. Left. I mean, right?
Oh, you're at the window. You're at the window.
Oh, can I climb up? Oh, that window just opened by itself. Totally also normal. Normal thing to happen. No concern from me. As Jonathan climbed, he breaks the lock from the window.
Okay.
The window now opens and closes freely. Oh, I'm just in my
Okay.
bedroom.
Or is this another bedroom? I don't know. Oh my gosh.
It's my bed.
It's your bed. Oh my gosh. I'm looking at the guide. It's very, very ridiculous what you have to do next.
Use bed. Do I need to like pull the sheets off the bed to make like a rope?
There's more wall climbing involved now.
Okay.
You're going to be exploring the castle.
Yeah,
from
first
the
thing
outside.
I need to do is use my notebook.
Oh, there you go.
And then I'm going to open the window. Okay. And then I'm going to climb. It is an invisible maze, which is the worst kind of maze.
Mm-hmm. It's not that hard though. You're doing it very, very quickly by trial and error here.
Uh-huh.
No need for the explicit directions.
Oh my god. If I'm going in totally the no. Should I be going into the next window, or should I go try to get into one of these lower windows?
Keep trying to get into that window up there, I guess, but you can just explore it. There's several windows that you need to open.
This would be amazing, like if you were on a long plane ride and you had nothing to do. Like if your parents are like, we're flying to France. It's going to be 12 hours. We bought you an Atari Lynx and Dracula. Knock yourself out. Like I'd be like, okay, now this is a good game to have. Right now though, it seems tedious.
Yeah, I mean, all of these games, they take a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, it's just like deliberately slowing you down.
Mm-hmm. They're really not using the color palette of this handheld system to its maximum benefit.
No, I mean,
would
some
say.
of the games on the Lynx are so bright and pretty. What? So I guess that's the window I just can't ever get to.
Yeah, and look for a big window now.
Big window. This is boring.
It's riveting.
I know. Sorry, audience. This would be a great time for someone to send in a question. Hey, Jeremy International. I'm stuck watching this live stream of the most boring video game ever. What should I do?
Donate.
I know. Give me some money. Buy a more exciting game.
Yeah. It says here that there are 4 windows, one of which is just plain closed, I don't know if it's necessary to try to open it before you get to the big window, but that's the one you should be looking for, is a big window.
Big window. I'm going to give this 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to call it quits. Deliberately throw myself into the moat.
This is a very short game, by the way. It's a very short game.
Oh, yeah? Well, not at this rate, it's not.
Because, okay, I'm just going to spoil this for you now, and I'm sorry if this is not something you want to hear. But this this does not do even like a quarter of the novel.
Really?
No.
Do I make it back to London eventually?
Very beginning. Yeah, the very beginning is the entire game.
Jugsy says that they're enjoying the game. Well, then you should play it,
thanks,
Jugsy.
Yo, though, like you're more than halfway through the game already.
Here's a big window. Really? I've done nothing.
I know, right?
I've done absolutely nothing.
All right, here we are. Get in the middle. See if that works. No? This game is like a demo.
I gotta commend Jonathan for having some serious upper body strength from doing all this wall.
For reals.
And also for the confidence of like, Dracula is clearly a supernatural being, but he did it, so I should be fine.
It doesn't even have the female vampire revenant people in it that are in the book. The brides,
Dracula.
Yeah.
That's the horny.
No, not book. Even. I know. Well, the whole book is pretty horny.
That's true, but that's why I'm saying it's the horniest part of a horny book.
It is, yeah.
It's the.
I can't believe that like with the very little amount that we've progressed so far that you're still halfway through this entire game.
I've done literally nothing. Interesting. I wonder if there's just really small. I'll show you in a minute what an Atari Lynx game looks like. It's like a card. It's very thin. I can't imagine there's a lot of like storage medium inside the game. So they must have been
but
really
still
limited. I know.
I mean, they skipped on the colors already.
Yep, they sure did. Oh my god, this is terrible.
Like this is probably the most interactive part of the entire thing. Just looking at what I have on the other screen here, this invisible maze is like the height of the gameplay of this game.
Someone at I don't know who developed this. Atari did. Someone at Atari was like, I want to make an invisible maze game. And they're like, oh, we should do it in Dracula. And he's like, whatever. Is it?
Yeah.
Can it be an invisible maze? Then I'll do it.
And like had, put it off to the last minute.
Yeah. Well, what else do you want to have in a Dracula game? Just the invisible maze, man.
Do you think that maybe we should have like the Dracula part, like where he feeds on people? No, might not. No,
or should we like maybe we fight him at the end? No, man, just invisible maze.
No.
Because when you think of Dracula, you think of an invisible maze, right?
The guide here ends with, and I quote, "Although the ending isn't actually all that good, I hope you feel like you accomplished something anyway."
I hope you feel like you played. Oh, here we go. Maybe it's this one.
Oh, and there's different endings based on whether you used your notebook enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we got into.
Is this your same fucking room? Freaking room?
I've said the F word a couple times already, so that ship has set sail.
I think it's your room. Yeah, we're back in your room.
I did all of that to get back where I started from.
Wow.
Let's not do this. Give me. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Let's get another game to play. I have so many, but it's got to be something that goes into my analog pocket. Let me turn this off.
All right, I'm going to take one more short break. I'll be right back.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'm going to show the audience at home what an Atari Lynx game looks like, so you can see how the likely storage challenges they had is. It's look at this, and see that there's like nothing to it. There's so many other games we can play. Hold on, audience. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm right back. I told you. What else can we do? Should we do another Dracula game? Because I have several. I know what I'm going to do. Let's just play something a little chiller.
Frankenstein is a better book. I will die on that hill.
It is.
Both are good books, but Frankenstein is the superior one out of the two.
So this is what I decided we're going to play instead.
My cough is getting better, Jugsy. It's been bad. It's and like if I wouldn't have been able to be on stream a couple days ago with how much I was coughing, but I'm feeling so much better. So yeah.
Glad.
What are we playing?
We're playing Snood.
Snood.
It's super chill, and we can talk about other things with everybody while we're playing it. You know Snood? I don't know why. Snood on the Game Boy Advance, I am obsessed with Snood.
I've never even heard of it.
It's a really dumb puzzle game. These Game Boy Advance graphics are the best. So it's like, you see how it is? It's this kind of puzzle game where you just like match up. I know.
It's like Bubble Bobble.
Yeah. And you just like line them up. Super fun, but it's so dated, you know?
It's exactly like Bubble Bobble.
Yeah.
I want to know the lore here. What is a Snood?
Yeah, I know. Rats, that sucks. I did it. What is a Snood? So, what else should we talk about, everybody? I do have one last question to read through, which we can get into in a minute. But what else has been going on?
Well, like I said, I had this awful cough. I'm sorry we're talking about health issues so much on this show, but both of us have had a few recently.
Yeah, when I'm around, there's always going to be talk about health issues. That's a totally acceptable and healthy and acceptable thing to talk about.
Well, I made the very bad mistake of cleaning my basement with bleach without enough ventilation like a couple weeks ago, and I've been just suffering really badly since then. So be careful when you're using cleaning supplies. Always have enough ventilation. And if you do what I did and inhale something you shouldn't have, go to your doctor.
Yeah. That's terrifying, old man. I'm so sorry you went through that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I have been a bit irresponsible with cleaning with bleach in the past, and it hasn't really hurt me too much. But this time, I'm going to be very, very attentive to the safety precautions.
Yeah,
like,
well,
I'm not going to do that.
Mix with bleach, it turns into chlorine gas, and you just die.
Yeah, urine and like cat urine especially will turn it into mustard gas. And I smelt mustard. I'm gonna say I smelt some mustard. Wasn't me, it was her. But I mean, it was my fault. And like, yeah. Either way, I had like a chest X-ray and it came out fine. And so I'm gonna be all right. But it was scary for a few days for sure because I was just coughing my lungs out. I was short of breath. I couldn't, do my usual chores and such. But like I said, Jugs, I'm feeling a lot better now, and it might sound like a bad chest cough, but like it was a lot worse a few days ago.
God, that's the worst.
Any ammonia agent is what'll turn it into mustard gas.
That's scary stuff. I was in the Great War, and mustard gas was one of the things that kept me up at night. So
my war was against my cat having a problem with her own butt, and that's why I was like really going hard with the bleach, because it was so nasty. But
yeah,
again, not a reason to ignore safety precautions.
Amir says, I hope the basement turned out really clean at least.
It's fairly clean now.
Well, now we know there's no other people down there, because you'd hear them coughing.
Yeah, well, they have. And there's nobody else down here.
Yeah, that was a joke.
There's nobody.
I hope there's not. That'd be creepy.
Yeah, and you couldn't hear them even if. There's nobody else down here.
While we're talking about the health stuff we've been through, so I have autoimmune disease that attacks my digestive system. That's why I've had a lot of it removed. And I take this medication that's been really great. It makes it so I have almost no symptoms and I feel pretty good all the time. But it had some pretty gnarly side effects, so I'm in the middle of changing from one medication to another one. And the old one has stopped working, but the new one hasn't started yet. It takes a few more weeks. So I'm just having essentially that illness untreated for the last couple weeks, and probably for another couple weeks. But I'm feeling pretty good today. So I'm glad that we got to have all this time together, oldman.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, even if Dracula was not as stellar as we both hoped that it would be, I feel like this is a really good show for us to kind of just get back in the rhythm of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It's been too long. What else can we do here? I got some other cool games. Here's a game that I'm never going to play, but I bought it anyways because I'm never going to play this because I have medical trauma. But I got the Trauma Center New Blood for the Wii. This is one of those surgery simulator games that I want to play, but I have really strong, this is probably something I'd play for 5 minutes and pass out. So I probably won't do that yet. Maybe someday I'll be able to.
That's a Halloween game for you. That'll scare you straight.
And then because I sometimes want to play new games, so I find an old game that's close to it because that's just how I am these days. So I got the original Red Dead Redemption for the Xbox 360, so I might check that out too, because everyone keeps saying that the sequel, which is now multiple years old, is really great. Mm-hmm. This is a game maybe we'll play next week since I've already given up on Dracula. This is the Ooze for the Sega Genesis. I'm excited to play this. It seems really weird and strange, so we'll probably see that again soon. And just today, I got my first English Sega Saturn game, which is Iron Man and Exo Man of War in heavy metal. Do you know Exo Man of War?
No.
Oldman, Exo Man of War was like a super edgy 90s superhero. He was like a caveman in a high-tech alien suit, and it was just very bloody and gory and graphic. So that game's probably going to be terrible, but I'm excited to check it out anyways.
My advice about the first Red Dead, and actually like all the Red Dead games, is that I try to play the game itself, and then I end up just playing poker in the bar.
Yeah, I've heard. It's like, you ever play The Witcher 3? There's like a card game that you can go around and play in The Witcher 3. And you hear stories all the time about people like, yeah, I'm going to go hunt down this monster and have this adventure. And then they just sit around in a bar playing this card game all the time. If you haven't, Oldman, The Witcher 3 I would put it in the top 5 best video games I've ever played.
Everyone says that, and here's my issue with the Witcher games. I tried to play every one of them. When the first one was released, I tried to play it, and I'm not saying anything. It's just my little mental block here, but Geralt is a little bit too much of like a Mary Sue, like his white hair, and he's such a badass, and he's got these, cat eyes, or does he? I don't know. Either way, he's just too much. Like, it's kind of like a 15-year-old came up with the most edgy, cool character they could imagine.
I disagree with all of that, old man, and I'm gonna
I'm
tell you
sure.
why. First, so I haven't played any of them except 3, and in 3 you have so many options to be like romantic and be like a
Yeah.
softie and to like do things out of love, and it's like that's a really great trope that I like. Another character that's like this is when he's written well is Wolverine from the X-Men comics. Is that he started out as being this gritty, edgy, just kind of like grizzled up, mean, cool 90s guy with claws in his hands. But in any halfway decently written story he's in, there's always some kid that he takes under his wing and becomes kind of like a dad to, and he's really
Mm-hmm.
much more complicated than that. And Geralt is too, certainly on a surface level, and maybe in some of the other games I haven't played those. I don't know that he's kind of that edge lord. A 12-year-old would have thought of as being like a cool dude, but he's so you have and so much of how Gerald is characterized is up to you as the player because you have so many complicated, interesting choices to make in that game. But
Mm-hmm.
you have so many options to be able to do things where he's kind of a sweetheart and he does things because he's in love or because he has a crush or because he's embarrassed. And you can make him a so much more interesting character in that game. That is primarily why I think that is such a great game, is because you can subvert this expectation of what kind of guy you would initially think he is.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, and that's what people have told me about it, but I just can't get past it, and I've tried. I really have.
Yeah. No, I respect that. But boy, that is a good for me, I was thinking about this the other day because I got really into that Fallout show and it got me really thinking about Fallout 3 specifically and how much I love that game. For me, the sign of a really good video game is it creates such a well thought out, it's such a rich sense of place that the location is so fleshed out and so immersive that when I look back at playing that game, I don't my memories aren't of playing a game. My memories are of being there in the capital wasteland, digging through some blown up house for drugs or ammunition while I'm listening to Bing Crosby. Like that's how I
Yeah.
remember that game. BioShock is the same way. When I think back about playing BioShock, I'm not my memory of that game isn't sitting on a sofa with a controller in my hand. My memory of that game is there doing the thing, being in the destroyed city at the bottom of the
Hmm.
ocean.
Well, speaking of living in the capital wasteland, you and I both live near or have lived in a capital wasteland ourselves. And
Yeah.
come to think of it, on Hot Jazz Saturday night, I'm just driving around listening to Bing Crosby just like in the game.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, I used to love Hot Jazz Saturday Night, and before that was
Hmm.
it before that on NPR they had old radio shows like
That's
Johnny
Sunday
Dollar,
nights.
this
Sunday
Sunday
nights.
night.
I listen
That
to it
was
every
the
Sunday.
best. They still do
Yeah,
it.
I'm a huge
Didn't that
fan.
guy
Yeah, they
die?
do. The original host, who was a legend on radio in period, he
Yeah.
died, and he did his last show from the hospital bed, and then he died like that next day. That's
Jeez,
how
that's
devoted this guy
hardcore.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those old. I sometimes listen to those with my dad, or at least I can talk to my dad about it because he grew up listening to that stuff. There's this one old radio show called Johnny Dollar. It's a detective
Hmm.
show. He's trying to solve a crime, but all you get
Insurance
is
investigator.
he's an insurance investigator. All you get is his itemized the way that he tells the story is by going over his itemized bill for what he had to do to solve the crime. It's amazing. Man, that's a
They
good
don't do
show.
that anymore. For some reason, in like the 50s and early 60s, insurance investigators were a big thing in like
Yeah.
fiction in
I
general,
think
and
people
that's
have
not
decided
true
that it's a
anymore.
boring job, I guess. Jugsy says, I see what oldmin means for sure, but I feel like playing the game, especially on higher difficulty, kind of highlights how much preparation and planning goes into his craft. Yeah, I agree with that too, Jugsy. The show definitely highlights the Mary Sue aspect. I agree. I enjoyed that show, but I didn't love it, and there's a whole season of it I haven't seen yet. But the game gives you so many really interesting character choices in a way that a TV show couldn't do. I've read some of the or listened to the audiobooks of some of the novels, and I liked all of those too. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely think in the scripted content, like the books and the show, that Gerald is the type of character that Oldman is talking about. But in the game, he's not that. He doesn't have to be. I mean, you can make choices so he is, but you can also make choices where he's much more dynamic and goofy and weird. And like I like the idea of this guy that has essentially is like a superhero that goes out with the sword and fights monsters, but then he gets all weird and awkward when he's around his crush. Like that's a trope that I can get behind any day.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm a big old hypocrite because I like Final Fantasy games, and like a lot of those main characters in those games are like Mary Sue to the max.
Yeah. Did you see the Fallout show, Oldman?
No, but one of my very best friends, who I had a nice long conversation with last night, recommended it to me. So I'm gonna check it out soon.
Yeah, you should. It I there's historically movies or TV shows based on video games have always been terrible. But I think that we're at the point now where people that grew up with the types of video games we're talking about are in positions of power in these productions. And as a result, the Fallout show hits all of the Fallout points. It feels like a game. It looks like a game. It sounds like a game. And there are all kinds of really, like, you don't have to have played the game to enjoy the show. But if you've lived in that world, then the show is so much more richer and funnier and weirder. And it's great. I was super impressed every second of that show. I enjoyed it so much. Highly recommend, whether you've played the Fallout game or not, highly recommend. Although also you should play Fallout 3.
I played most of the Fallout games, and I remember when Fallout 3 first came out. I finished the first Fallout game, and I loved that game. That was great. I never finished Fallout 2, and I did beat Fallout 3, but the rest of them I've played a bit, and I never beat.
I got pretty far into Fallout 4 and I enjoyed it, but Fallout 3 is one of those really singular experiences where I don't remember sitting on a sofa with a controller. I remember doing and being in that world.
I remember trying to find my apartment when I first moved to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I remember it's like that's what you got to do if you live in this area and you're playing that game, is try to find where you are.
Man, that was a great game. Amir says the only exception is that old cyberpunky Mario Brothers game. Yeah, there's been, because that movie had a big anniversary recently and got a nice 4K re-release, and there's been a lot of press about that. And apparently, who was Mario? Bob Hoskins was drunk the whole time because he thought the movie was so terrible. He didn't want to do it, but he was contractually obligated to, so he just drank the whole time making that movie, which makes a lot of sense. I haven't seen that movie in years. I remember being a kid and being horrifically disappointed in how not Mario that game felt.
Let me get your reaction to this. I was trying not to say this because it's the worst one of the worst headlines for like trying to start discourse, a think piece that I've ever seen. And I'm going to read this to you, and you're going to give me your reaction, Jeremy.
Okay.
Knuckles is the show Jews need right now. Seriously.
You're talking about Knuckles like from Sonic the Hedgehog?
There's a new Knuckles TV show, yes.
Okay, see, I didn't know that. First off, I don't know a lot because I was a Nintendo kid. I don't know a lot about Sega lore and how Knuckles works into that. But I think anybody saying blank is the thing that Jews need right now is not gonna make me happy.
But especially the Knuckles TV show. I laughed and I cringed. when they try to like shoehorn discourse into stuff like that, it does make me cringe.
Yeah. You should send me that. I'm interested to read that article.
I didn't even read it. I just saw the headline and I'm like, come on, get over yourself.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know what Knuckles' deal is. I should check it out and see. I do think that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a really good game, but I don't know a lot of I never really dug into the story of that. Okay, let's read our final question of the night. It is starting to get late, then we can start to wrap things up. This is another one that's kind of a bummer. I'm a 50-year-old man. My wife is 43. That's a pretty big age gap. We have been in a very heteronormative, monogamous, and satisfying relationship for 18 years. I have a lot of sexual fantasies that I'd like to share with her, but when I ask her what turns her on, she mostly says things like, I love to be kissed by you, and I love how you're a great dad. She has made it clear that she doesn't have the sort of fantasies that I do. I feel like there's a sexual animal inside her, but also worry that the fact... Hold on, I'm sorry. I have to turn... There's this spinning screen from that game that was really distracting to me. Sorry. I feel like there's a sexual animal inside her, but I also worry the fact that I can't help her to open up says something about my virility. I don't mean to say that I believe she is lying when I ask her these questions, but I sense or suspect that she's holding back on me. I realize I could be wrong. She does have some sexual trauma in her past, and her mother seems to have viewed sexuality as for men, their quotation marks. My wife also has some body image issues and insecurities. So the question is, how do I approach this issue? Question mark. I want to be able to share my sexual fantasies and be more experimental with her, but at the same moment, and for nearly the last 2 decades, our sex life has been pretty vanilla, and there hasn't been much talk about sex. I find that much of my sexual life has been relegated to solo activity with pornography, and it would be nice to be able to share this side of me with her. She becomes defensive when I broach the subject now.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'll give you a minute to ruminate on that, because I want to share, to me, the most alarming thing about this is, why is that timer there? That's weird. How did that happen? I think that people that are together for a long period of time start to develop a narrative about what and who the other person is that isn't always based on reality. And that to me is the biggest thing, is that she's been pretty clear about where she lies on the sexual spectrum. And he says that he has a sense that there's something more. And where does that sense come from? Is it that he wants her to have something more? Is he, because he has more, that he assumes that she has to be like him, so therefore she has to have more too? Like, he's not saying anything. He just says he senses or suspects that there's more. But the reality is, it seems to me, that he's projecting some aspect of her onto her that isn't necessarily based in any reality. And that's really upsetting to me.
Yeah, it sounds like wish casting, or focusing in on something that he has, gotten in his head that is missing, and it may well be missing for him. Yeah. But he's certainly, it sounds to me like this is something that he's like focusing on to the extent that he's coming up with these ideas that, at least in the letter, we don't get a sense of any reason why he would think that.
Yeah. He wants more, and he's entitled to his wants, and she doesn't, and she's entitled to her wants too. Not everybody is wired the same way, not just about sex, about everything. And it's upsetting to me when he's kind of projected this facet of himself onto her and it's not there. He says that I can't help her open up, says something about my virility. Like, he's making her...
What is he talking about?
Yeah, I know, that makes no sense to me. He's making her relationship with sex about him. And that's also not great. I mean, this is where things get complicated. Is he wants something which he's entitled to want. He's not entitled to it, but he's entitled to want it. And she doesn't want something. It seems like she's very clear about that. And she's entitled to then be free of that thing. So they need to figure out what they're going to do. It's never appropriate to ask someone to engage in sexual behavior that they don't want to. But it's also a bummer to ask someone to not engage in consenting a sexual activity that they want to engage in. So he either, you have to take the side of the least spicy person. So
it's hard for me to imagine that like any conversation that he's going to try to have with her about this is going to be productive as long as he still has this. He's like personally offended, or he feels like it reflects on him about her wants. Like, how are you going to even start the conversation when you're at that point already? It's hard, and maybe that's why the conversations haven't gone well.
Yeah. Jugsy says, some people just aren't sexy sexual, they're romantic sexual, which is still sexy. I just can't phrase it the right way. I get what you mean, Jugsy. And some people have kind of like a self-generating sexual response, and some people have a reactive sexual response. Some people just have a sexual desire that just comes from inside them, and other people are kind of like a lawnmower, and you got to pull a cord a couple times to get it going. That's just how people are wired. And that's not something that anybody should be asked to or expected to change about themselves. We spend a lot of time talking about how people's sexuality is theirs. And as long as it's not harmful to themselves or other people, that they're entitled to it. And this is one of those cases. People should be entitled to have at least people have the right to pursue the type of sexual life or the lack of sexual life that they want for themselves. I think the way to move forward here is there's two things. There's two options. One is this guy can accept that his wife isn't interested in going on this journey that he wants to. Well, first off, he has to accept that regardless. That's how it's going to be. And needs to decide then if he needs to give up on that journey, or if that journey is so important to him that they either find a way to terms that she's comfortable with, where they open up their marriage to some extent in some configuration, or that they end their marriage so he can go on this journey that he feels so. His feelings about the importance of that journey, I think, are valid, especially as we all get older. That is, I think, a normal and natural thing we want to do. So he either needs to accept that that's not a journey he gets to go on because she's not going to go with him, or he needs to find a open and honest and fair way to negotiate that journey, either with her, not with her, but with her being his wife, or with them ending their marriage, which sucks.
Mm-hmm. And like, I'm not anti-porn or anything like that, but that little bit at the end about how like he is spending so much time and sounds like mental space in the porn world.
Yeah.
Is he needs to get some perspective.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
I agree with you 100%. I am also not anti-porn as long as it's made under consenting and sustainable circumstances and the performers are adequately compensated. And it's a safe working environment. I'm 100% pro, in fact, porn. But if he's trying to get his desire to have a sexual exploration under control, then he probably needs to dial back. Because watching a lot of
and you know what, it can warp your perspective, and we all know that. Like, that's not an sex work or anti-porn thing to say, but if you're spending that much of your fantasy life in that zone and you're complaining that your wife doesn't meet whatever expectations he has now, those two things are not disconnected. Those two things are probably connected.
Maybe in some way, but I also would be hesitant to say that one is the cause of the other. That I think
related.
Maybe, but maybe not. I don't know if I agree that that's necessarily that the watching porn is exasperating his
No, I'm
desire
not
to
saying it
have an
necessarily
adventure.
is, but just like this guy's entire tone. And now we're in the spot where we're speculating, but
Yeah,
this
yeah,
guy's
which is
whole
fine.
tone is a little bit off. And I
I
think, yeah, anybody can pick that up from
I
the
agree.
lettering.
I don't like the tone. I don't like how he's making it about himself, and I don't like how he's projecting a aspect of his wife's sexuality onto her that he has no reason to believe is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, like I was telling you, all the questions I had today were bummers, but I guess
That's
they usually
okay.
are.
They're not all bummers. Some of them are very sweet. They might have a bummer aspect to them, but there's whenever it's a letter writer who's like, "Oh, I don't know if I should ask my, high school crush who I've known for 20 years out on a date. I'm not sure." That always makes me feel like go for it. But
Yeah,
that's just me.
that's fair. All right. Well, wow, we made it almost to 11 today.
Woo.
That's a good sign for both of us.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. It was great having everyone join you. Always great seeing Jugsy and Amir in the chat. I know that there were other people watching because I saw the numbers, but it's cool if you don't want to participate. If you just want to watch, that is fine. This has been the Advice Stream. I'm your host, Jeremy International. I was joined, as per the usual, by my friend and yours, Oldman. We played Dracula the Undead. Is that what that game was called? For the Atari Lynx today. That game is a rough hang. I will not be playing it again, although I'm glad I got a little weird artifact in my collection. Did you see this before, Oldman? How tiny these, look how thin it is.
Oh my goodness.
So like that's probably why the game is so, just to compare that to a Game Boy Advance game. It's much bigger. I mean, it's not much bigger, but it's more. There's more stuff in there, I guess. But although that's interesting to point that out because now I'm doing a whole video game lesson here. This is a TurboGrafx 16 game, and these games are amazing and beautiful and have wonderful graphics. And that is also just a little card.
Ooh, so small.
Yeah. Why is this sticky?
Lick it.
Gross. No.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, thank you. So I don't know, but that game was, I'm going to go ahead and call it as being zero fun. And I enjoyed it for like 2 seconds when I thought it was going to be a different kind of game than it was.
It wouldn't even last the whole airplane ride that you were talking about earlier. It would last for like maybe some of it.
That invisible maze that I spent 20 minutes on and ended up back where I started from was probably going to take us a while. So thanks for joining us, everyone. We will be back next week. I am committed.
Yes, we will.
I get really sick, we'll find out. I am committed to getting back in the habit of doing this weekly. If anyone has any ideas about how to promote this better, I'd love to hear them because I don't know how to promote shit anymore. I could certainly use some help, although I don't know if I have any money to pay for that, so I wouldn't hold it against you to say no way. But I'm always open to ideas about how to promote on social media and etc. Please let me know. You can, if you'd like to seek advice for a future show, you can always head on over to JeremyInternational.com. You can also leave tips and comments there if you'd like to. But otherwise, we will see you next week. Thanks for coming by, Oldman. This was fun.
Oh, this was a lot of fun. And it was a good, easy, chill way to really get back into the swing of things with this show.
We'll make it harder next time. No, we won't. It's always going to be like this. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Be safe. And remember, empathy is an action. Have a good day.